Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel, your trusted home for hard-hitting political commentary, African diplomacy, and the stories shaping our continent's future. If you're passionate about Africa's role on the global stage, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and drop your thoughts in the comments section below. Today's episode focuses on a meeting that could have been historic, a high-level diplomatic engagement between South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa and former US President Donald Trump. But instead of being celebrated as a diplomatic win, this visit is now under heavy scrutiny, thanks to strong remarks from former African Union Ambassador to the US, Dr. Arikana Chihombori Quao. Let's be clear, this wasn't just another international photo op. It was a rare moment for Africa, and South Africa in particular, to step onto a global stage, sit across from one of the most controversial yet influential figures in American politics, and advocate for a bold African agenda. But according to Dr. Chihombori, that moment was wasted. Dr. Arikana, widely known for her unapologetic stance on African independence and unity, didn't hold back. She called the meeting a symbolic gesture, a step in the right direction, but argued that the South African delegation was simply not ready to make it count. In her words, this was not just a photo opportunity. It was a chance for South Africa to lead with purpose and articulate a clear African agenda. Let that sink in. In a world where the global north continues to dominate economic and diplomatic narratives, opportunities like these are few and far between. Dr. Chihombori's point is this: African leaders cannot afford to treat such moments casually. They have to walk into those rooms with a plan, a vision that goes beyond handshakes and press photos. During a recent public dialogue on African geopolitics in Washington, D.C., she expanded on her disappointment. She warned that the era of symbolic diplomacy, where African heads of state attend summits and meetings without concrete policy objectives, is over. The world is shifting, she said. Leaders must bring game plans, not just goodwill. And she's absolutely right. Let's consider the global context. The world is no longer operating under Cold War dynamics or post-colonial patronage. Today's geopolitics are defined by multipolar competition, economic realignments, and fierce battles over natural resources, trade routes, and influence. China is deepening its ties with Africa through the Belt and Road Initiative. Russia is gaining traction in parts of West and Central Africa. The US, once the undisputed global superpower, is now scrambling to re-establish its presence across the continent. In this new world order, African nations must not just participate, they must lead. And that requires strategic thinking, continental unity, and most importantly, political courage. Dr. Chihombori's critique speaks to a deeper problem many Pan-African thinkers have raised for years. Despite decades of independence, many African states still lack cohesive, long-term foreign policy strategies. We are often reactive instead of proactive. When invited to global summits, be it at the White House, the G7, or the BRICS table, African leaders often show up individually, not as a united bloc. There's no coordinated messaging, no unified bargaining position, and sometimes not even a basic communication strategy. And the result? We get sidelined. Our demands get diluted. Our presence becomes ceremonial rather than transformative. Now let's talk about symbolism. Some may argue that simply being invited by Donald Trump, a polarizing figure with a mixed record on Africa, is symbolic enough. But symbolism without strategy is meaningless. Yes, it was important for Ramaphosa to be seen engaging with Trump. Yes, it sends a signal to American investors, African American communities, and the global diplomatic establishment. But what did South Africa actually gain from this meeting? Was there a tangible agenda? Were investment deals signed? Was there any talk of visa policy reform, trade access, climate cooperation, or pandemic preparedness? If the answer is no, or worse, we don't even know, then Dr. Chihombori's point stands, we blew a major opportunity. And let's not forget the broader Pan-African dimension. President Ramaphosa doesn't just represent Pretoria when he steps into rooms like that, he represents Africa. Whether it's fair or not, leaders from more prominent or economically powerful African countries are often viewed as continental figureheads. Their performance, preparedness, and presence reflect on all of us. That's why the stakes are higher. Dr. Chihombori's comments also come at a time when African civil society and youth movements are demanding more from their leaders. We've seen this across the continent, from the EndSARS protests in Nigeria to economic unrest in Kenya, xenophobia in South Africa, and coups in West Africa. People are tired of leadership that is passive on the international stage and ineffective at home. And it's not just about international prestige, it's about survival. Africa is at the center of many of the world's most urgent challenges. We're ground zero for climate vulnerability, food insecurity, and underdevelopment, but also rich in human capital, natural resources, and innovation potential. So why aren't we bargaining harder? Why aren't we speaking with one voice? Dr. Chihombori's frustrations tap into this growing sentiment, a belief that Africa must stop begging for seats at global tables and start building its own. Whether it's in Washington, Beijing, or Brussels, African leaders must arrive with coordinated positions, research-driven proposals, and the confidence to demand partnership on equal terms. What would strategic preparedness look like? First, research and intelligence, knowing the priorities of your host country and how to align them with your national and continental objectives. Second, policy clarity, having specific asks, from trade concessions to infrastructure funding. Third, media strategy, using the moment to tell Africa's story to a global audience, rather than letting Western media define the narrative. Imagine if Ramaphosa's team had walked into that meeting with Trump with a proposal for an African-American infrastructure partnership. Or with a plan to engage African-American investors in tech, agriculture, and renewable energy sectors. Or even a bold call for reparations, historical justice, or fairer visa policies for African students. That would have made headlines, not just in Africa, but around the world. Instead, what we saw, according to insiders, was largely symbolic. A missed opportunity. Dr. Chihombori's final message is sobering but necessary. African diplomacy must evolve. It's no longer enough to be present, we must be persuasive, proactive, and prepared. The world is watching. And if we don't define our own interests, others will define them for us. So what do you think? Was Dr. Arikana Chihombori Quao too harsh in her critique? Or was she simply saying what needed to be said? Should African leaders be doing more to prepare for these international moments? And more importantly, how can we as citizens hold them accountable? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dive political content from across the continent. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.